Hi everybody, welcome back to the shop. So today I'm going to try to finish up this Morse Taper 2 tool holder for the quick change tool post. It's going to get mounted in the vise just like this. This is the big end of the Morse taper. There's the small end. The dovetail needs to be cut right here. And yeah, let's get this started. See how many carbide inserts I wear out. It's going to be very close, but I think it's going to work. Alright, I'm going to come back. I'm going to put some die chem on here and lay out what that dovetail is going to look like. Alright, I've got some layout lines there. I think you can probably see them. This is the edge of the end of the dovetail, and then across the top there, that's the area. So this area here needs to be milled out. Okay, so I measured across here. These faces here are actually straight, vertical. They're perpendicular to this face a little bit. It's not really a sharp dovetail on this one, and that is 1.425 across. Now I'm going to check the depth. So I'm going to zero out my, let's see if we can do this here, zero out my depth gauge. .4195. Okay. 0.4195, we'll call it that. Okay, let's get the edges of the part. Actually, I can't do that because it is offset a little bit. This side here is a little narrower than this side. If you recall from the first video, I decided that I was not going to continue end milling these to try to get it to the exact size because it was just chewing up my carbide cutters. So this dovetail is not centered. So I will have to get it off of this end, and I'll get this measurement. The reason I did that is because if you recall, when I was grinding this Morse Taper 2, it got to the point with one of my test fittings with the live center I had that it barely stuck out, and I wanted to give myself about it's really almost about 1/8 of an inch that I could remove from this end in order to give me more clearance for that if I need to. I'm not planning on doing it just because, but I wanted to build that in as a safety factor so that, yeah, as a safety factor. It doesn't really hurt if this is off center or not. This, by the way, is the top. This is where the screw will be put in, and so that'll be mounted on the back side of the tool post. Alright, so let me measure what that distance is. Zero out our X. Alright, I'm going to use the insert in mill, I guess you can call it. that I used the last time, simply because I can re-index these cutters. So hopefully I don't have to do that too often. I'm going to mount it in an end-mill holder. I do have a flat, help prevent any sucking down of the part or the tool or anything. And I need to measure and see what these are exactly. I think they're, yep, it's stamped on it, or laser engraved, that it should be 1 inch. Reads 1 inch. I'll be right back. I'm going to need to go get a wrench. Alright, so let's line up the tool with where I need to make my first pass. If I go to 0, right there, that should put me 100 thou off center. Alright, we're going to call that 0. From what I've read, slower, deeper cuts are the key to keeping it from Morse hardening. This part should already be hard, so let's see how it goes. Alright, let's check this and see where we are. According to the Quill DRO, we should be at 0.375 right now. And man, that cutter is making a noise, and the bottom of that cut looks very rough. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this down. It's supposed to go to 0.4195. I'm going to take it down to like 0.4175 or something. Somewhere around there. I don't know. I'll figure it out as I'm going. And just take a light and then switch the re-index the cutters and take a light pass and clean that up. It's making quite a bit of noise. Yep, very rough. A little bit of a burr there. Let's see if I can take that off. Wow. I'm impressed with myself. The quill DRO says 0.375 and the depth gauge says 0.375, 74575, yeah. Alright, that makes me happy. Alright, it's a terrible finish, but that last pass, I can't even feel it. So I'm going to swap out these cutters and then take the final pass on the depth. Alright, I've swapped out the cutters for new fresh faces. And I've got the depth set to 0.4195. Let's cut it. Last two passes with this, and then we're ready for the dovetail cutter. That's not too bad. Alright, I'm going to deburr that and just double check the depth just for the heck of it. Not that it matters at this point. I don't know if you can read that or not, but let's make it so you can, because I'm impressed. Get my big old head out of there. 0.4195. Ha! Love it. Alright, so I am starting at the bottom of this dovetail. There is a slight height difference between the bottom of the dovetail and the center of it here. So it's raised up like 0.01 or something like that. Not much, but I'm trying to get the tolerances as close as possible. And I'm going to start on the bottom. I've got everything zeroed in relation to the bottom. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to cut all the way in once I start cutting more on the top part of the blade. I may have to raise it and then chip away at it a little bit. We'll see. We're in this together. If anybody has any advice after this of how I may have done this differently, please let me know. to the other side, touch off, reset the DRO, and do the same thing, and then we'll see if it fits. Alright, I believe the dovetail is done. Locked on. Very, very pleased with that. Which now leaves, besides deburring, I need to drill a hole and tap it and make a set screw. Almost forgot about that part. Let's get this cleaned up a little bit. Alright, so this goes mounted, assuming you're facing the lathe, it goes mounted this direction because this is the big end of the Morse taper. So I need to drill a hole somewhere in here and tap it for the adjustment screw. So let's get busy on that. Alright, so I'm cleaning up and putting away the dovetail cutter. And I don't know if you can see that. I think you can right there on the tip. It did chip the tip. But other than that, it held up great. Like I said, this is made by Randy Richard in the shop. There's his logo. Yeah, first time I've ever used it, but it worked great. I don't know if Randy has any more of these left, but you never know. He might be willing to... Oh good, he put the insert size on it there. Yeah, very, very pleased. So, yep, I'll put a link in the description to Randy's channel. Alright, standard procedure here. I just used a center drill, spotted it, or not a center drill, a spotting drill, and spotted it. Now I'm going to drill it out with a size Q, which, if you remember when I showed you the little test I did on the scrap piece, was the smaller of the holes, the recommended size, but it did tap okay and fit. So I'm hoping the hardness is just on the surface here. I'm going to zero out my DRO on the quill and add some more anchor lube. Now, how deep should I make that hole? I'm thinking a ½ an inch. Because the deeper it is, the more I have to tap, which thus increases the risk that the tap will break. And I want the stud to bottom out in that hole. So I think ½ inch. This stuff actually drills really nice. Yeah, you can tell it's not hard now at all. Okay, 1/2 inch. Wow, I just realized I'm approaching the end of this project. Happy days. I love making the projects, but the feeling of the satisfaction of finishing. See if it'll reach. Nope. Nice big chamfer on there. That tapped incredibly easy. Almost worryingly so. I'm going to use a bottoming tap now. And it hit bottom. I can feel it, and I can feel it cut those extra threads. Well, I am thrilled with that. That is fantastic. Finally something goes right. Okay, I've got another piece of mystery steel. I can't read. It was marked by the previous owner here, but it's rusted and I can't read it. It's 7/16 is all I know. And I need to turn it down to 3/8 for a distance of 2 inches, and then cut a thread on it. So it just occurred to me when I'm tapping this, cutting the thread on it with a die, this will be probably one of the last times I ever use the tailstock to do that. You know, as I mentioned before, I just realized this was tapping or cutting very easily, and it just goes to show what Randy Richard told me about cutting fine threads is easier is true. So Randy, if you're watching this by some chance, you were a big part of this project. Between your dovetail cutter and your advice. So thank you, my friend. Alright, I'm not going to bother flipping this die around and finishing it up to the edge because I left enough there. When I part it off, I'll be parting off in the threads anyway. Following that, I'm going to see, I think what I'll do is I'll chuck it up in a collet so I don't damage the threads, and put a nice chamfer on the other end. And then I'm going to stick it in a collet block on the mill and mill a couple flats on it so I can tighten it up on the tool holder. Normally they come with hex for a hex key, but I do not have a rotary broach yet. It's on the list of projects, but it's also on the list for a period in time when I have the skills to do it, which I think I'm quickly approaching. This project turned out quite well, I think. Very happy. Alright, I'm going to part this off, do those other operations. I'm going to do those offline. And we'll come back, and hopefully the next part of the video you see is me doing a test run of using my new tool post holder. I got to make a couple bolts and or nuts and lock nuts and all that good stuff. Alright, be back. Alright, forgive the dirty workbench here. Got to put a lot of these tools away. But I'm in the middle of the project. So I decided to forego the flats or the screwdriver slot, and I'm just going to use a couple nuts tightened together so I can get a good handle on it, and I'm going to use some red thread locker, Loctite, aka Loctite, down on this end. I still have some finishing I want to do to this, but I'm going to put this in first because I don't want, I'm going to blue it, and I don't want the oil and everything contaminating the hole and the lock nut. There we go. Let that cure. And now I'm going to move on to making the equivalent of this in 3/8 24. Alright, I cut a little piece, a little slug off of a bar of 12L14, and which it's nice to actually know what the metal is that I'm going to be working with. I got a bunch of stock at an auction, and I guess the guy was a metallurgist, so I got all kinds of stuff. Like I said, some of it was not marked, and I think that's where I got that big chunk of tool steel I made the tool holder out of, but it's possible I got it somewhere else. This guy was really good about marking his stuff, though. I got all sorts of of good stuff. I got some titanium rods in there I want to play with one day. Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to chuck this up and first thing I want to do is get it running true. So this, I'm not sure what the tool is properly called. I just call it a bump stop tool, and basically all it is a bearing on a rod, and oh, I need to lubricate that a little bit. This is how it works. You just start your part turning and dial in the cross feed, and you'll see when it first starts contact, it's going to skip. See? Now as I put more pressure on it, it'll start spinning more frequently. There we go. So now it's pretty well aligned, and then at this point I can just tighten down the chuck and should be good to go. Alright, now I'm just going to face this off. Ooh, what's going on there? That moved. I did not like the looks of that. Did you guys see that? I think that insert is loose in there. That's not good. Alright, I'll be back in a second. I got to explore that. Okay, much better. I think I had that thing put back together wrong. There's a piece that goes underneath the cutter, and I think I had that upside down. Okay, set my 0 there. I'm going to take this down to, I think, about 1 1/4. The other one on the other tool posts here, these are about 1 1/8. Alright, not bad. Looks like I've got a slight alignment problem again. Probably because I had the part on upside down when I aligned it. That is 1.307. I'm just taking light passes because it's not very much engagement there in the chuck. Alright, I think I fibbed earlier. This is, last time was not the last time. The tailstock is going to be used to replace itself because I need to finish this little nut. To drill it for a 3/8 24 tap. A little clumsy today. Very tight quarters here. I need something to gronk down on that adjustment screw a little bit more. I keep thinking I want to build a new nut for this that allows me to get a bit more leverage. I think we're getting it now. Feels like she's got some pressure on her. One more gronk, I think. Oh yeah, that was looking good. Okay. Whew. That oil stinks. No critical dimensions here. The one from the factory, I guess you want to call it, was a 1/4 inch. So we'll go about a 1/4 inch as well, I think right there. Likes that lower speed in there in the center. Whoa! All right, clean that up, and I think we're done. I keep saying that. One of these days it'll just be true. Alright, except for finishing, I believe we are done. I've just got it temporarily set up in here with the drill chuck when I actually just left the tapping, the tapping follower set up in it to get it pretty close to aligned, and I think it's pretty close now. And seems seems to be working pretty good. It's a nice fit on the tool post. I might still have to take a little bit off of this face because it looks like it's real close to being at the limit of the Morse Taper 2. The piece that I used to test is for my die head, and it stops about here on it, so this is apparently much longer than a normal Morse taper. It stops about like that. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out. I can just tap here with a brass drift or something in the end to release the part. I thought about building in some sort of mechanism where I could just hit it with a hammer and tap it out, but it's not worth the effort, I think. So let's go off to finishing. So this is kind of interesting. This metal, this steel, came out much more blue than black, and it actually reminds me of the color that I associate with gun barrels that have been blued with this material, with this finish. So that's yeah, to me that's interesting. Anyway, let's see how it looks after I put some oil on it. Right now it looks terrible. May not have been the right choice for this. Alright, I'm going to let that sit for a while, and then we'll give it a shot. Alright, well I think that turned out pretty well. Here's a couple photos of it on the tool post, and thanks for watching, and as always, please subscribe and hit that like button if you would. Thanks again. Take care.